So today, we're going to take a walk through the ancient streets of Ephesus. But we're not just going to look at the incredible ruins of emperors and grand philosophers. No, we're going to look for the stories of the people who actually built this city, the people whose lives have been almost completely scrubbed from history.
Look at this place. If you're walking through Ephesus, you are literally surrounded by breathtaking beauty. It's so easy to imagine the citizens in their togas strolling down these marble roads, right? But underneath all this grandeur, there's a really brutal truth. This entire city, like so much of the ancient world, was built and run on the backs of enslaved people.
So, just how many people are we talking about here? Well, historians estimate that in a major Roman city like Ephesus, somewhere between 20 and 40% of the entire population was enslaved. Just let that sink in. Almost 1 out of every 2 people you would have seen walking these streets was owned by someone else. This wasn't some small part of their society. It was the bedrock it was built on. Okay, to really understand this, let's follow the journey of an enslaved person. For so many people, their new life in Ephesus began right here, at the harbor. And they didn't arrive as passengers, they arrived as cargo. You know, the Roman scholar Varro put it with such a cold, simple clarity. He just wrote, "Slaves regularly passed through the harbor of Ephesus." This port wasn't just for exotic spices or fine wine. It was a major, bustling, and terrifyingly efficient hub for the trafficking of human beings. And the Romans, with their meticulous obsession for record-keeping, they show us just how systematic this whole process was. There was a customs law for the region, the Lex Portori Asia. And it wasn't a law about people. It was a tax code. It listed human beings right there alongside timber and textiles as taxable goods.
And under that very law, a customs tax of 5 denarii was charged for every single slave brought into the harbor. A human life was inventoried, it was assessed, and it was taxed, just like any other piece of merchandise.
So, from the harbor, let's move into the commercial heart of the city, the agora. For the free citizens, this was the bustling marketplace, the place to see and be seen. But for the enslaved, it was the place where a price was put on their life. Just try to picture the scene. Human beings stripped down, put on display on a platform for buyers to inspect. And to advertise their product, the dealers would hang a simple wooden pendant around their neck, a tag that spelled out their fate for all to see.
And what was written on these tags? It wasn't a name. Of course not. It was a list of features, a summary of your usefulness, your age, where you were from, what skills you had, any disabilities, and finally, that simple, chilling phrase, on sale. A person reduced to a set of bullet points for a business transaction.
Okay, so you've been purchased. Now what? What did life actually look like from that point on? Well, for the huge majority, it was a life of just relentless, back-breaking work, always with the threat and the reality of extreme violence hanging over your head. And ownership, it wasn't just a legal concept on a piece of papyrus. Oh no, it was a physical fact, something literally burned into your body. You were marked for life, a visible sign to the entire world so there could never, ever be a mistake about who and what you were. The practice was known as dalanurda. A hot iron was used to brand the chests, arms, or even the faces of enslaved people. This mark was a permanent, public declaration that you were property, a scar designed to literally erase your identity and stamp you with your owners. Now, while all forms of slavery were brutal, there was definitely a hierarchy of suffering. Domestic work in a home was grueling, for sure, but being sent to the silver mines, that was a death sentence. The conditions were absolutely horrific, the labor was beyond backbreaking, and your life expectancy was incredibly short. So let's move away from the mines and workshops and go inside the most luxurious homes in the city, the terrace houses. Now, you might think life was better here, inside with the wealthiest citizens, but a gilded cage is still a cage, and the beautiful interiors of these homes hid their own special kinds of abuse. And we know this because archaeologists have found these stunningly preserved wall paintings inside these houses. I mean, they're beautiful. They show scenes of this elite, luxurious life. But when you look closer, a deeply unsettling picture of daily reality for household slaves starts to emerge. Some of the paintings show what you might expect, right? Clothed servants offering food and wine to their owners. But artwork in other rooms tells a completely different story. Here, both male and female servants are painted completely naked. And this wasn't just some artistic choice. It reflected what was considered hospitality, offering up the bodies of the people you owned as a voyeuristic spectacle for your powerful male guests. One painting shows a young woman wearing nothing but a single necklace. It was a display of absolute power and the total vulnerability of the people they owned.
The scholar Jennifer A. Glancy puts it starkly. She says these images represent the abusive corporeal dimension of slavery. They are evidence of a world where enslaved bodies were treated as objects, routinely exposed to abuse and penetration at the whim of their owners and their guests.
Our journey is going to end at the Great Theater. For the citizens of Ephesus, this was the center of entertainment and civic life. For many enslaved people, it was a place of public torture and spectacular death. Just imagine the roar of the crowd in this massive space. They weren't just here for plays, they were here for blood sport. Not too far from here, archaeologists found a mass burial pit, and it was filled with the remains of gladiators. Enslaved people and criminals were routinely forced to fight to the death, right here, all for the entertainment of the city. One of the most horrifying forms of public execution was called ad bestias, which means to the beasts. The condemned person, often a slave, would be brought into the arena naked, unarmed, sometimes even chained to a post. And then starved lions or bears would be released. There was no fight, no chance. It was simply death as a public show. The remains from that gladiator cemetery tell their own brutal stories. One skeleton revealed a man who was killed when his opponent drove a trident straight through his skull. This isn't some distant, abstract horror. The evidence of this incredible violence is literally written on the bones of the victims. So you have to ask, was there any way out? For the vast, vast majority, the future held only a brutal death in the arena, a short, miserable life in the mines, or just endless servitude. But there was a sliver of hope. It was called manumission, the act of being freed by an owner. A very rare few, like the freedmen Mazaeus and Mithridates, who actually funded one of the city's main gates, they achieved incredible success. But let's be absolutely clear, they were the exception. For almost everyone else, freedom was a dream that never, ever came true. So, when you look at all the marvels of Ephesus, the library, the theater, the temples, what do you really see? As you walk these marble streets, will you only see the magnificent ruins of a great city, or will you also see its unseen foundations, the ghosts of the millions of people who lived and died in bondage to create it?